Ladies and gentlemen, we are excited for this one. We're talking to Liz. Now, Liz is one of those people who's kind of nervous about talking in general, really nervous about talking about herself. But man, we're going to be talking about some accounting things that are going to help small business owners. And we're going to bring her out of her little shell, which, man, it's an awesome shell. She's an awesome lady. She works at group.com, and I think that you're going to really appreciate the next 20 minutes learning about her taxes, accounting, really the whole a lot of things are going to help a business owner. My name is Ken French with vastsolutionsgroup.com. Liz, we're here. Tell me a little bit about yourself right off the bat. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Liz. I've been in the accounting field, bookkeeping field for the past 15 years. I've touched on broker-dealer accounting. I've done sales accounting. I've done sales and product services accounting. I've done trust accounting for property management. I've touched on all the different types of accounting, so I have that understanding of what each one requires. I've touched on payroll, so accounting comes with payroll as well, so I have the experience in that. Yeah, HR, I guess that doesn't really go with accounting, but you're going to have that if you got lots of people. So I've touched on that as well. So yeah, it's a little bit of me. I have two kids, one 12, my daughter Darren, and my son Leith, he's 10. They're fantastic, love them to death. Yeah.
I hope you love them. That would suck if you didn't.
My husband Ryan, who's the corn dog man, and he's the king, and bless him for everything that he is. Love him to death.
Wait a minute. What do you mean?
Family of 4.
What do you mean corn dog? What do you mean? He's a corn dog. What's that mean?
he's online, and he's corn dogs is the thing. Corn dogs is what grabs everyone's attention, and so he has his little group following, and if you got something corn dog related, or if he's got something corn dog related, he's out there trolling people with regard to corn dogs, or just getting his band together, and they're having fun with just corn dogs. Anything you talk about with regard to corn dogs.
Wait a minute. This is not, we're going to be talking about bookkeeping, accounting, etc. But let me know a little bit more about this corn dog thing. Does he make corn dogs? Does he own a company that makes corn dogs?
No, he doesn't. It's just that's his stitch. That's his thing. So like if we go to the grocery store, it's like, where's the corn dogs at? He's got to go over to the grocery store. He's got to make sure he get his crazy photo with the corn dogs. And he's posting that online to get his followers to kind of jump on the corn dog bandwagon. It's all for fun. It's
got it. So how many, Mr. Corn Dog, how many followers does he have?
How many followers you got? 14,000. No. 14,000 corn dog loving fans.
Very good. That's very good. What was his name?
Ryan.
Very cool. Very cool. The corn dog. And wait a minute, just in case people are wondering, how do we find him?
Ryan, how do they find you?
Search for Ryan Coomer on Facebook.
Search for Ryan Coomer on Facebook.
Coomer, how do we spell that?
Coomer.
Awesome. Wow. We're going from bookkeeping to corn dogs. Man, that's awesome. All right.
Lively bunch.
What?
We're a lively bunch.
I guess you are. That's awesome. You know, a lot of people, sometimes people are worried about working with bookkeepers or people in accounting because they don't have a personality. Clearly you have a personality. So this is going to be a fun little,
that is not the first time I've heard that. And you make a good point, because a lot of bookkeepers tend to be more reserved or quiet, keeping to themselves. And I like that. Don't get me wrong. I like that. But I also like to have fun and be goofy and be silly. And I do laugh at myself, and I laugh at my husband, and I laugh at my kids, and I'll probably laugh at you too. And that's okay, because this is all in good fun. Smile and laugh. That's what it's all about.
Oh, that's good stuff. All right. So obviously, we at vastsolutionsgroup.com do a lot of AI, artificial intelligence. And one of really the reason we're kind of sitting here today, because, you were assigned basically a topic that you're an expert in, which you are clearly. And that was really, accounting and bookkeeping, because that's what you do for vastsolutionsgroup.com and our clients. So, I'm sure that was a little unique, given an assignment, two, about really with a basis to do a book, basically on top of AI. Now, give a little bit of a mention to the audience about your initial thought when someone said, write a book with the basis being AI and then make it about accounting and have your own flair thrown in there. Go ahead and make some comments there.
When you first shared that we were going to do that, my first thought was I normally start like spinning, like
Mhm.
lots of spinning, like, okay, I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, well, how do you construct a book? I got to go look up how to construct a book. I need all these pieces. And I started getting a little overwhelmed.
Uh-huh.
And then when I started jumping into it, I did Google like the format of a book to try to make it as formatted as possible. I'm like, okay, started there. And then I started asking AI questions to help guide me through how to get this started. I'm like, okay. And once I kind of started asking more questions and I had 101 different word pages open where I'm putting all these different possibilities. And then I'm like, okay, I clearly need to start with a table of contents, because even though I'm asking it to write these chapters, I'm going to need a table of contents. And then how is it going to give me a table of contents when you can't put the entire book inside of AI? Anyway, I learned lots of things as I was going through this process of like what steps you should take.
Mhm.
But once I understood how this was supposed to work and how I could make this flow a little quicker, it actually was quite easy.
Mhm.
AI, you literally tell it what you want, and it already starts to give you it gives it everything to you. It gives everything to you, and it's original. Because I even asked it, who is the author of this?
Uh-huh.
And it said, well, technically, I can't take credit for that. You're the one doing this, so you could put yourself as the author. I'm like, really? I
Mhm.
thought for sure it was pulling information from someone else and it was giving it to me, and I was going to be plagiarizing.
Yeah, no.
I was like, no, it's not. It's original. So it was pretty neat to go through that process. It was actually kind of fun. I made it fun, because I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, well, then of course I was joking with my kids and just bragging about how I was writing a book. I'm like, look at that, kids. I just got chapter 1 done. Look at that, kids. Chapter 2 is done.
There
And
you go.
laughing at me. But I was like, and then that next thing you know, I'm like, kids, just what? I'm done. I just wrote a book. It's done.
That's exactly
Anyway,
right. I
you're
totally.
cheering me on.
I appreciate your efforts. That's awesome. I think people, they're a little afraid of AI, and we've been using AI on the tax side. And I know it makes a big difference. It really does help the end user, in this case, the person who's going to be reading your book, and plus the end user who's going to be, well, hopefully using our service for taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, because we use that system called Einstein that we use for taxes and tax mitigation. But so now, what is the name of your book that really in the end will help a small business owner?
Yep. The name of the book is Unraveling the Tapestry, an introduction to the ABCs of accounting.
Yep, that's awesome. And what's the takeaway? What's the one takeaway? Because you obviously did put your own spin on it. What's the one takeaway? I guess the most important takeaway a small business owner will get from reading your book.
I mean, for the most part, it's just it's the passion of the backside of things when it comes to the bookkeeping and the accounting piece. You can run your business and you're out getting your sales and you're making your money, and all that's great, but it's really only going to be as great as how much you're putting into the back end of things when it comes to the books, your numbers, the money that you're making, your bank accounts. Like, if all of that is in disarray, then the business is likely going to be in disarray. And so that's the part. That's the heart of it, is coming into your numbers. The running a business means making money, and your money means your books. And so your books need to be just pristine, on target. Everything's good, everything's clear, and just happening on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
That would be my takeaway.
So it sounds like most business owners don't really know what bookkeepers do. Actually, what's a typical day? Let's say you're doing an 8-hour day in bookkeeping. Actually, this is a very valid question, I think, for a lot of people. What's your 8-hour day look like then?
When we're so I'm a bookkeeper, so I'm not the business owner, I'm the bookkeeper. So if I'm working for you, my 8-hour day is getting into your books. What activity has come in over the past day? If I'm doing this daily, what activities come in the past week? I'm making sure that your deposits are accounted for, and they're accounted for in the appropriate bank accounts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at the expenses and what they are. Where should they be applied? We have what they call a chart of accounts. Chart of accounts dictates where every single action or transaction, whether it's a debit or a credit, needs to be applied and ultimately reconciled. So I'm reviewing those things. I'm making sure that they're being recorded accurately, because it's the accuracy of your books is what matters the most. If you're not accurate, then you shouldn't be touching your books at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so doing that, if I'm doing reconciliations, I'm making sure that I'm accounting for everything that's sitting inside of your books matches identically to what's happening inside of your bank accounts.
Mm-hmm.
Bank accounts, credit cards, all of those things. You have multiple companies, and we're doing that across the board for all accounts.
Mm-hmm.
If you're happen to do payroll inside of your bookkeeping as well, then I'm making sure that your payroll is spot on, your employees are getting paid proper, your taxes are being filed, all those things are happening accordingly. So those are the day-to-day things. You know, each business is going to have its own type of activity that's coming through, which requires its own type of workaround to get through these things. But those are the day-to-day things that I'm touching on. It's a figuring out, problem solving. Oh my gosh, this reconciliation just got out of balance. What happened? Diving in and trying to problem solve to figure out what that is, to make sure we bring it back to where it needs to be and everything's flowing appropriately so your books are beautiful at any given moment. You're ready at the end of the year, file your taxes, and have a great day.
Holy mackerel. So do you think by your efforts, do you add value in that? Let's just say I want to sell my business. If I have good books, would having a good bookkeeper make a difference in the purchase price or the sale price of my business?
Well, I mean, it's going to give you a more accurate account of where you're sitting. If you have a good bookkeeper managing your books, you're going to have 100% clarity and comfort with what you're presenting to a potential buyer. If your books are all over the place, a potential buyer might see some inconsistencies and maybe not have a lot of confidence in what's being presented, or want to deep dive a little bit more into your books to see, well, what's going on? Because this is going to be their investment. So what are they looking at? Is it correct? Is it accurate? So if you have a good bookkeeper managing that for you, managing it for you and doing it accurately, I feel it brings more comfort to the owner when they're going to sell, especially when everything's in line. My personal thoughts on that.
Yep. So do you, very interesting. What about my tax returns? Because I have a good bookkeeper, would my tax returns more accurately reflect my financial situation?
Yeah, it's a really great question. That's a tax professional question for sure. I don't know how well it would help with your taxes. I think it depends on what your activities are and how much you're able to write off. And in that regard, Kenner, I'll be honest, and we can cut this part out. I'm really not sure about that one.
Yeah.
I know filing taxes requires a lot of effort and requires a tax professional to know all the things that you can and cannot do.
Yep.
And there are so many little things that tax professionals just know. And I'm like, God, you're smart.
Yeah.
They're just so smart because they know those things just like the back of their head.
Yeah, that was kind of a leading question, because I think a lot of times people say, "Oh, I don't need a bookkeeper," and at the same time, I think having a bookkeeper cleans up taxes, and it sometimes makes it so people pay less in taxes because they have clean books.
Because it's clean, and I agree with that.
I really believe
totally
that.
agree with that. I agree with that 100%. The cleaner you are, the better things are. Not only that, the easier it is to file your taxes. If it's a mess, good luck, and bless all the people that are gonna push that through right on for you to make magic happen.
Yeah. I have a friend who, well, now he's a client, but he's become a friend. He literally gives his receipts in a shoebox, basically.
Oh.
And it's hard to figure out, well, is this personal? Is this corporate? And then it's hard for us to value, or him to value his company, because his money is all over the place. Right? I think it makes a difference if one, so you know what your rate of return is. If you have a good bookkeeper, you know what your rate of return is in a division or in a big company versus another company, because you have your books in order, and you know if you're having a 7% rate of return or an 8% rate of return, or that's really important. That's the reason I think that's the biggest thing I find is valuable in a bookkeeper, because you want to know as an entrepreneur if you're making the right investments, and a good bookkeeper really helps in that regard.
It does. It absolutely does. And if you have a good bookkeeper in place, who cares about what they're touching, they care about the accuracy of what they're touching, they care about integrity, and they care about ethics, you got a good person on your hands, and you're going to have good books, and you can feel comfortable knowing that what you're looking at and what you're trying to evaluate for yourself and your business is it's spot on, and there's no worry about it. And because that's one thing an owner doesn't want, is to have to, well, is this right? Are we good? Are we caught up? This doesn't look right. If you're having to question your bookkeeper, then that's a problem. I feel you shouldn't have to question your bookkeeper. They should come in with the confidence and be able to handle your books, and that you got clean. It's clean across the board.
Yeah. Well, do you, and I should know this, I really don't, but do you personally make it so you can sit down with a business owner and kind of teach them how to do their own bookkeeping, or is that a service that you personally do not provide for any of our clients?
I've not ever provided that before, but that's not to say that I have any issues teaching. I teach a lot. employees when I'm teaching them. It's no different than teaching an owner. And I feel like the more you know about your books, the better you're going to be. If you turn a blind eye to it, it's like it makes it hard for you to even identify when there's an error, and you should be able to identify when there's an issue. So yeah, I mean, if I have an opportunity to teach, I have no issues teaching. I'm a person, the more you know, the better off you are, the more well-rounded you are. So I'm all for that.
Gotcha. And do you, in your specific job with VAST or what have you in your past, do you also do invoices? Do you do, pay for payroll for clients? Do you do that extra step? Is that something you do with VAST clients in general?
So for VAST clients, I've not had an opportunity to. Prior experiences, yes. Invoice creation, yes. Payroll, absolutely, yes. Those were just aspects that came with what my services required, and was happy to complete that. No problem at all.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. Thanks for answering that. So, okay, what? By the way, how does one get a hold of you? That's really important. How does one get a hold of you through VAST Solutions Group?
You can email me at elizabeth@vastsolutionsgroup.com.
Is that Elizabeth with a Z?
It's ELIZ, ABETH at vastsolutionsgroup.com.
Very cool. Very cool. And then obviously, by the way, my name once again, Kenneth Frenchman with vastsolutionsgroup.com. We're talking to Liz, who wrote a book, and its title again is
Unraveling the Tapestry: An Introduction to the ABCs of Accounting.
Very nice. So just for some of the small business owners, what is the difference between tax and accounting? Small little question, but it's a heavy question.
Tax and accounting. Oh, you're putting me on the spot.
You're on the spot. Well, because you wrote your book about, I think, a very interesting topic, accounning. And I think that's pretty smart, because it's more generic than just taxes.
It was definitely intended to be a little bit more broad in nature, not the specifics with regard to bookkeeping or taxes. But taxes, to me, when I think of that, I just think the government and what you're going to need to pay and owe, and that's what I look at. Your obligation to the state and to the IRS, and bookkeeping is what's going to keep you in line when it comes to what those taxes are and what you owe with regard to taxes. So they I mean, of course they go hand in hand, but nobody likes taxes. Everybody hates them. Nobody even wants to deal with taxes, but they're there. And so if you have a good bookkeeper in place, then like you said, you're going to have a clean set of books when you do go file your taxes. You're not paying out the yin yang for things.
Yeah, I think it's funny that I don't understand, and I used to hate taxes, by the way, but now
now is that what you're saying?
Well, no, I do, because I love taxes now, because if I can lower a tax liability for a client, legally, morally, and ethically, by the way, if I can lower a tax liability, and let's say there's another advisor who's not caring about their taxes, let's say they're doing financial stuff or whatever, right? Well, and they're not paying attention to lowering a tax liability by X. Let's say if I could lower a tax liability by 10%, that means the rate of return will be easier for a client, or higher for a client, because they're already starting with a higher base. So that's the reason I love taxes. And I think so many people don't realize that taxes are a big expense that usually can be whittled down because of little things that people don't know about legally. And that's the reason I love taxes. I mean, I feel like
you make a good point. It's more like a game to get the most savings you possibly can. You look for it and you capture it. No, I get that.
I love it. I just love it. It's funny because, man, I'll never forget an undergrad, man. I remember I was in an accounting class and I was saying, I can't believe people want to do taxes. And now I have a passion for taxes, which is crazy. Anyway, that's a whole nother deal. Yeah. All right. So, okay. So what is another takeaway from your book that, that a reader can walk away with and say, wow, that was valuable to me as a small business owner?
I think the way the outline is in the book is it's just taking that more like a personal, how do I say this? Because it's not going through your typical outline, profit and loss and the balance sheet. It's having you take a look and evaluate yourself and what the requirements are when it comes to accounting and bookkeeping, and how you want to dive into it and embrace it to make it something that's not so scary, but just something that you're going to have passion for, to want to see it through and see it through proper. That's my feeling when this book was prepared. That's my feeling of the book, is just taking that more embracing, passionate approach to bookkeeping and accounting, and just loving on it and learning about it and not being afraid to dive into it. And then
Mm-hmm.
the rest will follow. If you don't have your arms up when it comes to bookkeeping and accounting, it's easier to comprehend and move through, as opposed to like, oh my God, numbers, I don't want to do this. This is too hard. And then you immediately will throw your hands up and not want anything to do with it. So that's it.
That's a big one. That's a really big one. So what about the question? Some people say, I can do my own books, my own bookkeeping. Now I'm not going to fret people for that. But then again, the thought is, well, how do you know if you're doing a good job? So what are your thoughts about people saying, I'm going to do my own books?
It's okay. It's okay if you have an understanding of the fundamentals. If you're just diving in, and we all had to learn somewhere. I truly, I didn't learn from school. I learned through experience. And so, if you're in a position where you have a resource that you can go to in order for you to do it yourself, and you have someone that you can rely on who's going to steer you right to help teach you, then go ahead. Go ahead. But the reality is as your business continues to grow, the books tend to be something that falls over here because you're out trying to capture your business and make your business grow, and you're going to need someone else. But if you want to do your own books, I don't shun it, especially if you're just starting out. Usually you're the only one anyway that's doing it. But it's just, I think having a resource that you can rely on to help guide you when you need it is going to help get you the basics that you need to see it through. But as things can become more complex, you got, loans that you're taking out, and you have your assets that you're trying to track, like that becomes a little bit more complex. And that's when you're going to want to have someone in your corner to lean on and maybe handle that for you.
I understand. So then what about someone who just has whatever? Let's say they have two LLCs and they have one property in each. Do you think it makes sense to have a bookkeeper in general?
I would think so. I would think so. Even if it's part-time, to have somebody who specializes in that for the owner, I think that makes sense. I do.
All right, so that's a good one. So how much time do you think, let's say you're the person who's been brought in for that engagement, how much time do you think it takes if they have two kind of simple properties, one in one LLC, one another? How much time does that take for you? I'm just wondering.
How many bank accounts are we talking about, and how many credit cards?
Yeah, exactly. I love that. There you go, because now we're talking about complexity. Let's just say they have 2 accounts per, so they have total of 4.
Oh, that's I don't know, maybe a couple hours a day, 2-3 hours a day.
Yeah, I get it.
Just to keep the daily caught up.
Yeah, and really, if you think about it, would you rather be a business owner? Let's say the business owner is whatever, going out and buying more real estate, or would you be a real estate investor who is also doing that activity and doing the books 2 hours a day or whatever? Which would you rather be? I think as a real estate investor, if you want to go out, if your passion is real estate investing, you're probably going to do better if you're just going out and do real estate versus also trying to do books.
Well, yeah, it's right people, right seat. So I mean, not everyone, but each person has their own strengths and skill set that they bring to the table. And some people an owner can be more savvy with books than they are the sales piece. And so they're probably going to want to hire a salesperson to help them with that and help their business grow. Whereas other owners are more interested in going after the sales themselves. And they're going to maybe not, they care about the numbers, but they don't want to get into the nitty gritty. Like, it's the day-to-day, it's mundane. I don't want to do that. So yeah, you would want to hire somebody to do that. It's all dependent on what your passion is. If you're an owner and you can do both and love both, then by all means, have at it. But otherwise, you want to stick with what you're going to love and be able to produce most for your business.
Yeah, that's the reason I decided to bring on all these bookkeepers. What do we have? 4, whatever. That's why I decided to bring on these bookkeepers, because I wanted our investors at vastsolutionsgroup.com. I wanted them, because most of them are real estate investors, I wanted them to go do their real estate investing, leave the bookkeeping to us so we can add value. So meaning they're going to make more money if they're going and doing the real estate investing and we're doing the bookkeeping. I figured that would be more helpful to a business owner, or in that case, an investor,
Absolutely. No, I agree with that. That was a great approach.
I'll pat myself on the back on that. We only have a couple more minutes. So what's the biggest, I'm looking for a case study from you. So what's a case study where you've taken someone with dirty, messed up books, turn them around, and then they're very, very happy. So just one case example where people will say, wow, I understand exactly why I might need a bookkeeper, because maybe I'm in that boat. I have dirty books, unclean books, and now I want them cleaned up. And the difference in dichotomy between the two.
So dirty set of books, dirty, complex, and a little all over the place. There's a property management company where we had another third party that was assisting with the books on the back end.
Mm-hmm.
And although they have their function and they have I guess their processes for how they handle things, some things were off, and things weren't tying out, and things weren't balancing between accounts. And so when I came on board, I was able to come on and very quickly went through the process of identifying where certain issues were on trust accounting. They need to be spot on. You can't be off even a little.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was able to come in, identify where those problems were, transition funds to ensure that everything was balanced out. And then since then the books have been just immaculate, and I take great pride in that, because trust accounting is a big deal, but when you're dealing with somebody else's money, multiple people's money in a trust
Mm-hmm.
account, it can't be off even a little. And so to come in and have very clean, clear books for the past several years, that's an accomplishment that I'm proud of.
Yeah, that's a huge one. You
Mm-hmm.
also brought up a very big point. If someone has an investor, they probably should have kind of another set of eyes on the books, or someone else doing the books, because you need a neutral person who's doing the books, especially if one person has fiduciary responsibility over the assets. Really, they should have a professional advisor, that being a bookkeeper, come in and help with the books. That's a big thing. Very big.
Checks and balances. You got to have them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And even an individual who thinks they can do their own books, they might mess up because that's not their.
You don't have a second set of eyes, kind of, and it's not to call anyone out, but the second set of eyes means if your eyes are laser focused and seeing something a certain way, to have that second party come in and just review it, they're going to catch something or see something that maybe you didn't. And it's not because you were intentionally doing something wrong, whatever. It's a second set of eyes. And this way, when you have two pairs and you're coming in, you're looking at things together, you're going to identify more issues and ensure that they're resolved so that they can be fixed and you start doing things appropriately, going forward. But yeah, checks and balances, I'm all about it. It should be two people at any given moment. If you have three, that's even better. I split things out. Mm-hmm.
Holy mackerel! This has been a really good interview. All right, so we're almost done. How about 2 more minutes? What are your thoughts on the overall process of AI writing the book, this interview? Because I know you were worried. What are your overall thoughts in the end?
The overall was this was fun. This was very different. This was very, very different than anything I've ever had to do. And I'm like, I'm not in school, but this kind of feels like I'm in school. I was given an assignment. Interesting. And so initially it was like again, my gears were turning. I was all over the place, very overwhelmed, but reined it in. And it just became a very fun process. The interview, Kenner, it was like, am I answering this right? I don't know. I just keep going with it. But thank you. The comfort you bring has been very helpful. So the beginning, breaking the ice, like that was super helpful to kind of loosen things up a bit. But I've enjoyed the process. This was fun. This was fun. I enjoyed it.
I'm so glad. Well, once again, in closing, how does someone get a hold of you, the author of the book, and also just in general?
Elizabeth with a Z at vastsolutionsgroup.com.
All right. And then once again, my name is Kenner French with vastsolutionsgroup.com. It's been a pleasure. Really appreciate you spending the time, not only you, Liz, but also all the listeners and viewers. Thank you.
Thank you.